Hello, Smite viewers. Welcome back to the Smite Community Cast. We are in Week 5 of the summer split of Season 2 of the SPL. Fighting on through one series of Team AFK versus Team Cognitive Gaming, with AFK taking that series 2-0. And now we will be going into the second series, which is another 2-game series. This time around it will be Team Dignitas versus Team Fnatic. Looking at the voting here, Fnatic is very heavily favored to take this series 2-0, which is what I picked for my fantasy ticket as well. Just getting the replay number in here. So I'll fire up the replay here. Alright, so yeah, Fnatic pretty heavily favored to win this one. Not too surprising. Let's see. And I have the things switched around. So I'll flip the teams around here. Get these set up correctly. Alright. So alrighty, so going into picks and bans, Team Fnatic starting off here with an Amir ban and an Ares ban. Ares banned pretty frequently these days, nothing too surprising there. And also not too surprising to see that Amir ban, that's pretty heavily favored by Frostiak. So not surprising that Fnatic would want to take that out of the pool. Dignitas, on the other hand, banning out the Neith. No surprise there, we're pretty much going to see Neith banned in about every game, I would suspect. She is just too strong right now. Bologna also banned out, another top tier ban. So we've got 3 pretty standard bans, 1 targeted ban towards Frostiak. Fnatic going to start up here by picking Giannis. Kind of an interesting first pick. Giannis can be countered by certain things fairly well, so you generally don't see him picked too early in the draft, but they must have a good plan for him to be favoring him so hard. Frostiak going to be picking up Thor. Thor, one of the top tier junglers. Never surprising to see him picked, regardless of the team. Brings a lot of pressure all game long, lots of damage early and lots of control late, and they'll follow that up with a Geb pick. Geb, very safe support for the late game, good at saving allies all game, and his ultimate actually does quite a large amount of damage towards the late game, as that percentage health works on them. Not surprisingly, we will see Sylvanas picked up here by Team Fnatic. I am a little surprised, however, to see that Athena wasn't picked up by Dignitas. Geb definitely very strong, very good support, but Athena usually the favored one these days, just due to the large amount of early crowd control on a short cooldown and the insane mobility. Geb's sort of in a similar vein though, also has very good crowd control, not quite as good as Athena's, but is also quite mobile with the rollout. And we have Apollo picked up over here for Fnatic as well. Apollo making quite a bit of a resurgence lately, fell out of favor for a long time, but of late has gotten quite popular again due to his mid and late game power and his excellent split pushing ability, and the ability to rotate to a fight anywhere. Chronos going to be picked up by Dignitas. I really like the Chronos pick. I feel Chronos is rather undervalued these days and doesn't see quite as much play as he should. He's very potent, really all through the game, does quite a lot of damage with his abilities in the early and mid game, has good crowd control with the stop time, and in the late game is an absolute monster, has by far the highest structure damage of any god in the game with his Accelerate. He can just absolutely shred through structures. Continuing on in the bans, we see Dignitas ban out Fenrir here. That's kind of an interesting ban. Fenrir not very favored usually, which I think is strange. I think Fenrir is also very underrated, much like Chronos, and should probably be picked a lot more than he is. They must know that Fnatic has something up their sleeve with Fenrir, otherwise I don't see why they would ban the Fenrir. So I imagine research done by them and an interesting ban. We see the Raw banned out by Team Fnatic. Dig was still most likely looking for their mid laner, that Chronos probably going to be going into the solo. And we now see Serket picked up by Fnatic and Shibalonki picked up by Dignitas. So with Geb, Kronos, and Shibalanki, those are three extremely potent late game gods, so we're probably going to see Dignitas try and drag this out somewhat. Whereas Fnatic seems to have more of a well-rounded lineup. Yanis very strong in the late game, and Apollo very strong in the late game. Serket can be strong in the late game, but is generally more mid-game focused, and Sobek also early and mid-game focused. So it's probably going to be a solo Beck, with Serket going into the jungle, and standard lanes for the rest. Over on the other side here, we see a Poseidon pickup, so that almost certainly will be Kronos going to the solo lane and Poseidon in mid. And with those being completed, we will now hop into the match. So looking at the lineups again here, Fnatic has sort of a balanced throughout the game lineup, whereas I would say that Dignitas has a much more late game focused lineup. The Thor and Poseidon, they've done the right thing with the late game lineup. When you pick two gods like Kronos and Shibalanki, you really want to pick some strong early gamers to sort of carry those late gamers through the early game to make sure you don't get too far behind, and Poseidon and Thor are excellent choices for that objective. Both bringing lots of damage and lots of control in the early game. Excellent mid-camp contest from those two gods on Dignitas. Fnatic doesn't actually have very great mid-camp contest. Giannis is pretty good for mid-camps, though not as good as the Poseidon with the Kraken, and Serket also not real great for mid-camps, whereas Thor brings a lot of control to that. So if Dignitas wants a chance against Fnatic here, who are heavily favored to win this matchup, I think Dignitas definitely needs to focus on using the early power of Poseidon and Thor to try and overtake the mid-camp control and try to secure at least the 50-50 on the mid-camps, if not trying to contest both and take some away from Fnatic. Introducing the teams, over on Fnatic, we've got Reels on your Hunter as Apollo, Zeros playing Giannis. I'm looking at the wrong people. Zeros playing Giannis in the mid lane. We will have Badja playing support over there in the duo lane with Reels. In the solo lane, we will have Maniac playing solo Beck, and your jungler will be Captain Twig. Fnatic has really drastically improved since they switched Captain Twig to the jungle role. For a while, he was sort of coaching, mentoring, came back into the jungle role, and Fnatic has just been on an absolute tear since then. He's the shot caller for the team, and he just does an excellent job from the jungle, coordinating ganks with his teammates, and making sure that the team is always cohesive. Over on the other side, for Team Dignitas, we've got Variety going to be in the solo lane as Kronos. Most people tend to think that Variety is the weak link on this team and tend to abuse Variety. I think Variety's been performing great lately, really. Dignitas has had some interesting victories that a lot of people didn't think they should get, and I think Variety's been an instrumental part of those. In the jungle, you've got Frostiak, very well-known jungler, mostly known for his Amir on the big stage. We saw that Amir banned out by Fnatic. Good choice there, because Frostiak's jungle Amir is very scary. In the mid lane, we will have Shadow Nightmare playing on Poseidon. Very solid mid laner all throughout the game, generally performs very consistently. Over in the duo lane, we'll have Youngbei on the Hunter. Was sort of one of the famous, more well-known Hunters for a while. Has fallen off of that radar a little bit, but definitely still a very potent Hunter, and on a character like Shibalanki, you can definitely look for him to make a big impact this game. And we've got Frezu rounding out that lineup on Geb. Frezu's been in the game for a long time. Frezzy previously. He's changed his name to slight variations on Frez several times. Right now playing the Geb. Great support player. Look to see him to keep this Shibalanki alive and make sure that he can farm safely to get towards the late game. We had standard starts coming up from the teams, but we do see very early rotations from the jungles out. Thor actually in a bit of trouble there. Nice portal by Giannis, comboing right into the Deathbane from Serket. Like we said, very early rotations in here. Captain Twig holding a slight XP advantage, so must have snagged a camp that Frostiak missed. Both teams going to work on clearing up these mid camps as fast as possible, or these mid creeps as fast as possible. Over in the solo lane, this is kind of an interesting lane matchup. Maniac on Sobek will have great sustain and is very tanky, but uses a lot of mana for his clear, whereas Kronos has very excellent mana management and can clear very well without running low on mana. So we'll sort of see how that dynamic works out. Fnatic off to a slight lead here, clearing slightly better in this duo lane is where some of that comes from. Though Youngbei and Frezu doing their best to hold it out, it's not surprising to see them pushed out considering we have Badger running the purple buff on this Sylvanas. Gives a very nasty clear just with those basic attacks, even with them being changed to not knock the creeps back anymore so we can't stack them up with that. Still just does a lot of damage to the creeps with those AoE basics. We now see a rotation back to the back camps from Fnatic over here. Zeros and Captain Twig backing up the combo for those. Zeros already hitting level 5, Shadow Nightmare getting there as well, so both of those mages should have their ultimates available for the mid camp unless something crazy happens in the next 20 seconds. Over in the solo lane here, both members hitting 5 as well, and the only issue or area where Dignitas is struggling just slightly right now is in the duo lane. Due to the faster clear of Sylvanas and Apollo, Fnatic has managed to rotate both of those members to work on the left mid camp, and they're going to contest the right mid camp with 2 other members. There's that early contest I was talking about. I figured they would have better mid camp contest with Thor and Poseidon, that Kraken very potent, but unfortunately with Thor's low health, they are still forced off the mid camp despite picking up that kill. So, picking up the first blood does put them at a bit of a gold lead, but not quite as much as they probably would have hoped for due to not being able to secure either of the mid camps. Still a very good look for Dignitas, good to pick up that first blood on Poseidon. You pick Poseidon really for that level 5 Kraken gank. That is a very crucial part of the game, and if he can get a kill with that first Kraken, it generally sets him up really nicely for the rest of the game. Over in the duo lane here, let's check what our hunters are working on. So Apollo is going the very typical Apollo build nowadays. You almost always see the death toll on Apollo, just because he is so basic attack oriented rather than being focused on abilities. Xbalanque also basic attack oriented, but you can pick up the Bluestone Pendant on him so he can keep his branching bolas going for extra damage to clear the wave. Both of them looks like are going to be going into Heartseekers. Technically could still be a Transcendence on Xbalanque since he hasn't finished it yet, but considering he is backing now, I imagine he will be going for the Heartseeker just as Apollo is. Apollo going to be about 1.5-ish waves ahead of Xbalanque maybe on the clear for this Heartseeker. You can see he's got the 5 stacks there already from the remnants of that wave, and we'll see if Xbalanque is able to get back in time to clear up those. The next wave. Interesting choice I just noticed as well here. We actually have a Soulstone picked up by Shadow Nightmare in the middle lane on that Poseidon. I wasn't quite paying attention during that Kraken, but there's definitely a chance that he may have had that Soulstone stacked up for that Kraken. That would have certainly gave it a lot more power. It definitely seemed like it did a very large chunk of damage, so I wouldn't be surprised if he had at least some Soulstone stacks going for him when he unleashed that Kraken. Over in the solo lane, Frostyak leeching a bit of XP over here from Variety. Variety going to go aggressive a bit on Maniac here, put in as much damage as he can onto the Crocodile. As far as itemization over here goes, we see Sobek starting with the Mark of the Vanguard. That's pretty common when you run the solo Beck, just because it lets him tank the archers very well with the built-in protections from his passive. That lets him play really aggressive and not worry about the creeps too much. Chronos we see with a tiny trinket, which is a little interesting. Bancrofts and Polynomicon, actually both very nice items on Chronos. Could technically be a Divine Ruin to try and deal with some of the healing from Sobek and Sylvanas. I would like to see more damage on him though, maybe have Shadow Nightmare go into that Divine Ruin instead of the Chronos, since Chronos really needs to be focusing on his late game itemization. Mid camps are about to spawn here again. We see the left flashing, right will be flashing momentarily. Again, we've got a nice rotation over here from Badger working to pick up those mid camps on the left. The right this time looks like they may be able to be picked up by Dignitas, considering the rotation from Variety. We do, however, also have Maniac rotating over here on the Sobek. We'll see which team decides to hard commit on these first. Maniac jumping in with a Pluck. Chronos going to quickly use that ultimate just to be as safe as possible. And again, that mid-camp contest I was talking about at the start of the game. Thorn, Poseidon, excellent ult combo there. We did have Serket finish, or get a poison on the Geb though, which spread to Shadow Nightmare Nightmare and will now finish him as well. Good job by Twig to recoup some of those kills, and over in the solo lane we actually have Reels take out Youngbei alone. You can see it was a very close boxing match. Reels very low. That's really going to hurt Xbalanque though, because that chopped his Heartseeker stacks in half, and now Reels will have a significant damage advantage over there for a while until those Heartseekers even out again. Got a close portal on the Maniac, and with the jump, the ambush, and the Deathbane from Captain Twig, they are able to finish off Frostiak there in the mid lane. So really nice combo in that mid-camp fight by Frostiak and Shadow Nightmare, comboing the Anvil of Dawn with the release of Kraken. But unfortunately, they were picked off afterwards, and Fnatic was able to recoup those losses and now even pick up an extra kill in the mid lane. We see Fnatic sort of working on a Gold Fury. It didn't look like they were totally committed at first, but now they may choose to. It's getting quite low. Good sustain from Badja, and the Hog will go down and finish that off. Frezu was working his way in to try and make some impact there, but just not quite able to reach it in time. We now see him rotating behind Zeros in the mid lane. Rollout will run out of duration. Zeros is kind of juking. It looks like he may have been waiting on mana for a second to do that portal. Thor up to the skies. We'll see if he manages to find Zeros. Not quite long enough range on that ultimate. I think he was out at the max range. Does drop the wall. Zeros should almost have mana for another portal here. Does get the mana, but just not quite able to line up what he was looking for, and Frostiak does manage to chase down and finish that off. Fnatic now with a pretty nice lead, even though they just lost Zeros. That Gold Fury put them up quite a bit. Let's see what the experience is looking like. So they are also leading in experience a bit as well. Nothing crazy yet, not too much of an impact going to be coming from those leads at this point. Though as we go a little further and we start getting close to level 13, where those next levels of ultimates come out, that could be a pretty impactful point in the game. It's going to be another level on Deathbane, and or not Deathbane, but Serket's ultimate, and another level on Sobek's ultimate as well. Dignitas really needs to try and catch up to that as quickly as possible, because they have a very large power spike at level 13 with Shadow Nightmare getting the next level of his Kraken. Back to items, we see Giannis going what's sort of become the standard Giannis build now these days, is max CDR right off the bat, makes him very maneuverable, very quick and hard to catch. Just spamming portals every few seconds. Sobek picking up a Void Stone eventually. You see that very common on Sobek in the solo lane. And you generally see Power Boots on him, but this time around we actually see Maniac favoring the cooldown, which is an interesting choice, but a good one, I believe. They have so much damage in... They have so much damage from the rest of the team right now at this point in the game, with Serket putting out lots of mid-game damage, and Reels doing it so as well on Apollo. So Sobek wants to go for as much control as possible by picking up those cooldown boots. We do see the Anvil of Dawn come down on Serket's head, and she is able to be picked off. Good coordination there from Team Dignitas, making their way back into this game, trying to narrow that gold lead as much as they can. And let's see, did Kronos do anything yet? No, Kronos still has not done anything with that tiny trinket, so we're still not quite sure what that'll be. Big ultimate damage there from Maniac, gets the full channel off, but it looks like Variety's ready to head back to the base anyways. Just baiting it a little bit. And we'll see what he does with this. I would imagine a Demonic Grip, could be a Telkines, but he does go for the Demonic Grip. Let's see what our actives are looking like. Some bare active slots still at this point in the game, usually by 10 minutes to see most actives filled, but Apollo's so survivable that he's probably not worrying about it too much. Xbalanque I would like to see at least the beads picked up pretty soon on, because there is a lot of control on the side of Fnatic, and it would be a shame to get picked just because he doesn't have beads yet. Both hunters actually deviating slightly. Xbalanque decided to go right into the Aussie after the Heartseeker. That's likely because of the kill that he suffered, put him behind on Heartseeker stacks, so he figured he would need the Aussie as some more sustain to help him stay in lane. Whereas Apollo delayed his Aussie, going into the Warrior Tabby instead first to give himself a little more speed and pressure. General dual lane clear going on over here. Nothing too exciting. We've got a bit of a lull in the action. As far as other builds progressing, we've got Poseidon going into Shoes of Focus, which is a little interesting. I would have figured he would favor Power Boots since he's one of their strong early gamers that's supposed to try and bridge the gap to their late gamers. So I'm surprised he didn't go Power Boots to make his Krakens hit just a bit harder early, but he's favoring quantity over quality, so we'll see how that works out for him. We do see Thor going into the area anvil, Dawn crashes down on Maniac and the Sobek, excellent stunning, and the double tap comes in to finish with variety. That's very important. Getting Chronos kills early can just really catapult him through the game since he is such a powerful late gamer, but also possesses such strong spells in the mid game. So kills on Chronos can very quickly increase his pressure and snowball him quite a bit. Dignitas has actually managed to completely close the gap that Gold Fury opened up earlier. So excellent job farming by them, and a couple great picks have evened this game back up. We'll see how the XP is looking. XP is basically flattened as well. Excellent job by Dignitas recouping the losses from that Gold Fury and bringing this game back to even. We do see the mid camps about to come up here again. Left side will go to Fnatic. Right side it looks like will go to Dignitas. Serket jumps over but not able to get there quite in time. Frostyak hogging them out nicely. Lands the double tap on Captain Twig. We'll make him be a little careful for now as he's missing some health. And the next large fight will probably be around this next Gold Fury. If Dignitas can grab this next Gold Fury, they'll be in a very good position going into the late game. Variety and Frostyak picking up their blue buff over on the right side. Frostyak grabbed his speed as well. Maniac now looking to head back to the base actually. Figured he would go for his blue. Gonna head back to the base and maybe pick up the blue on his return trip. Paulo now does have his Aussie and Shibalanki now working on those boots. Purple buffs picked up on this side in somewhat of a grouping. We did have the rotation over from Frostyak. Shadow Nightmare now trending this way as well, though his red buff is close to spawning. We'll see if anyone wants to take a chance on the Gold Fury. Anvil of Dawn does come down on the left side from Frostyak, but Real's able to dash out of that. No problem for him. And we have somewhat of a stalemate, quite a grouping towards the middle and left side of the map. Solo lane, Maniac over here still farming away. On this side, however, Variety has rotated in already, but now we'll head back. Team probably debating whether or not they want to try for a Gold Fury here. They probably also realize that a Gold Fury would be a very big boon for them, considering their late game focus. But Fnatic will actually start up the Gold Fury here. They might not be fully committing on this, though they are dumping quite a bit into it now. Big Blanket, big Cataclysm from Frezzo. We do have a Whirlpool come out from Poseidon. Apollo up into the air, we'll see where he dunks down. Decides to go onto the Frezzo. Serket into the back line, they're able to take out Frezzo. That should secure the Gold Fury for them. Big ultimate from Serket. An excellent Kraken from Poseidon, but not quite able to finish Reels. The spin from Frostyak does, however, but he is able to be picked up on the back there. Chronos into the fray. Needs to ult out of there quickly. Almost died real quick there. That was a very risky play from Chronos. He's going to see if he can pick up one here to maybe discourage the Gold Fury, but if he dies here, this will be a free Gold Fury for Fnatic. Pluck into a portal from Sobek and Giannis, and Variety will go down. This should be a free Gold Fury for Fnatic. We've got Youngbay coming back in here on the Shibalanki, and there are some low members of Fnatic, but we'll see if he's actually able to do anything. He gets plucked in by the Sobek. Poison darts going out, doing a lot of damage onto the Badja. And will he escape? Portal in from Zeros, should be a dead Youngbay, indeed it is. That might have been enough to prevent the Gold Fury though. It looks like it is, since Geb coming back in, they do not feel like they have the ability to take the Gold Fury. Wise decision by there for Fnatic to back off, and good job by Youngbay going in and stopping them from getting the Gold Fury. It's unfortunate to die on someone like Shibalanki, especially when you have a Heartseeker, but defending that Gold Fury was definitely worth it, and a good decision from him to sacrifice himself for the team there. Maniac and Captain Twig grouping up back here on the solo side again. Mid camps this time will be taken by Dignitas. We see Captain Twig getting ready to start up his speed. Fnatic still not with a real comfortable lead at this point, though, considering the late game lineup that Dignitas is. I would like to see Fnatic start pushing this advantage a little bit if they're able to, try and open it up a bit more, because if this game goes to like 30 plus minutes and the teams are still relatively close to one another, it's going to be a tough time for Fnatic against a Kronos and a Xbalanque. We now have a gang going over here on Variety. Captain Twig will drop the ult, but unfortunately actually throws him out of Maniac's ult. They are able to finish him with the damage regardless. Kronos definitely not the most resilient of gods, and was unable to get out of that in time. Trending back towards the mid lane now, we've got a 4-man grouping from Fnatic, and it looks like they may go for this Gold Fury again since they took out Variety. I don't think Dignitas can contest it this time, unfortunately. They just don't have the resources available. No ultimate available from Frostiak. Andy's on the wrong side of the map, so that Gold Fury will go to Fnatic. We've got Apollo going up in the air. Captain Twig will miss his Mesmerize there, or his Taunt. Youngbei, however, with the ultimate, able to escape for now. Ooh, a little bit of miscommunication there. Badger blanks in an ult at the same time that Reels leaves, so they will be unable to finish Youngbei there. Good support from the Jeb coming in. Frezu able to shield off the Xbalanque and keep him safe. They do steal the blue buff, however, does Fnatic. Looks like there will be disengage. Fnatic not too interested in fighting this Poseidon in these choke points right now, considering the large burst damage potential. Poseidon has gone very, very quantity based here, going max CDR with the Spear of the Magus. Big blinking from Frezu, 3-man Cataclysm. We do see a Whirlpool come out from Poseidon. Not quite in range to land the Kraken, however. Zero's now into the backline, going quite aggressive. Double tap from Frostiak will land on Captain Twig. Captain Twig out into the backline. Zero's taking out multiple enemies, however. That poison spreading all over from Serket, and Zero's manages to pick himself up a triple kill on the Giannis. That's not great news for Dignitas. As a little consolation prize, Variety will come over and take the blue buff away from Sobek. But an unfortunate drop there from Dignitas. Their plan was to go aggressive in the choke points of that jungle and try to set up a big Kraken from Shadow Nightmare, but unfortunately they got slightly too aggressive and their team got spread out through the line on the left side of the map, and they were able to get picked off one at a time by the rotating members of Fnatic. Fnatic now going to start into the Fire Giant. Variety unlikely to be able to defend this at all by himself. Especially with Captain Twig zoning him hard. Good call by Fnatic to grab the Fire Giant here, recognize the lack of presence from Team Dignitas, and be able to secure themselves a big objective. Mid camps are up once again. We'll see if anybody decides to go for those. We're sort of past the point where those are very impactful now, but we will see Zeros go over and take the left side mid camps, with right side mid camps just respawning. Towers now going down for Fnatic, and just like I said, we thought they should. Fnatic needed to push their advantage a little bit, make sure to open it up against Dignitas, and just like that, they go for a Gold Fury, then they want to fight, then they win the Fire Giant. Fnatic really pushing the pace here, and you can see what they did immediately after they grabbed the Fire Giant. They continued grouping up and started going for objectives. It's really a shame when you see teams sometimes pick up the Fire Giant and then just kind of sit back looking for a fight, thinking we have the Fire Giant so we can win a fight. Fnatic doing the right thing here and pushing the structure pressure as hard as possible as soon as they get the Fire Giant. Members all backing up now just to grab items, and then I imagine we'll see them group up right away again and push for more structures. They've taken 2 towers with the Fire Giant so far, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them continue pushing for more structure damage. Builds progressing along here. Apollo going Aussie into Executioner and will now pick up his crits. On the other side, Xbalanque following a similar build, but is quite a bit behind at this point, unfortunately for him. Thor has had to go into a Hide of the Urchin, very defensive item, just because he is somewhat behind and is having trouble staying alive in these fights. I main jungle, and it sucks when you've got to go into a defensive item so early in your build just because you can't stay alive. Captain Twig, on the other hand, went into the Winged Blade. That's become a very popular item on Serket lately. When she gets through anyways, you don't see Serket not banned very often. But the Wingblade is great. Cirquette a very squishy character, and that Wingblade gives her offense and defense at the same time. Defense just through health, while offense through cooldown reduction, and more defense really through movement speed. Into the Jotuns then for her, and you can now see her going for the short sword. Will likely be a Deathbringer for those RNG massive crits on the Deathbane. Giannis has gone into the Spear after his max CDR and is now working on a Book of Thoth, so trying to bring his power up. Captain Twig jumps over to the wall into the backline. Huge ultimate from Zeros. Hits Poseidon and Youngbae, then manages to take them both out with an unstable vortex. Riding in the middle, using his ultimate to try and save himself. Maniac takes out Frezu. Hollow up to the sky, likely going to be able to kill Frostiak here. Good wall by Frostiak, but a Mez by Real stops his escape, and they manage to pick off Variety in the middle lane. Very big fight for Fnatic, excellent use of the Fire Giant buff, pushing their advantage as hard as possible. They will lose at least one Phoenix here. There's a chance Fnatic may just go for the end. With the Fire Giant, they can likely end it here, and it looks like they will. They're just going to ignore these, or the Titan, they're just going to ignore these Phoenixes, go right for the Titan, and try to end this game. So game one will indeed go to Fnatic. Really nice job by Fnatic in that game. Really nice job by Dignitas as well, really. They did what they had to contesting those mid-camps early. That was an important thing for them, as we mentioned. They really needed to contest those mid-camps to make sure they didn't fall too far behind going into the late game, since they have a late-game focused lineup. But unfortunately, towards the mid-game, they lost the Gold Fury, and I think they panicked somewhat after losing the Gold Fury, thinking we need to get this advantage back quickly, and that fight on the left side just wasn't quite in their favor, and I think they rushed it a bit. We could see the thought process of chasing down that left side, trying to get into the choke points with Poseidon, but unfortunately just weren't quite able to figure it out, and were spread out and picked off in that fight. This time, we're just going to head right into Game 2. We've got the picks and bans ready to go here. And, let's see, do I have the things flipped again? I sure do. So, we'll flip these back around so nobody gets confused. And we'll hop into these picks and bans. So on the Dignitas side, we've got Neith banned out again. We've seen her banned in every game today. Unsurprising considering how ridiculous she is. Giannis, the next ban, that's a really good ban from Dignitas. I like that ban. That Giannis was an absolute terror late game. Zero's just doing an amazing job on that Giannis. That ultimate and unstable vortex for the double kill into mid lane was just beautiful. Also having the Samir banned again, looks like they really don't want to let that through against Frostiak. Ares banned again as well. I'm going to mute my mic for just a second. Alright, so as far as picks go, we've got Bologna picked up first for Dignitas. No surprise there, very strong pick. Lots of teams like Bologna. She can be played in the solo or the jungle. We actually saw an ADC Bologna the other day. I can't remember which team ran that, but was interesting. She's a very versatile god and just very strong about anywhere. Ra and Sylvanas picked up on the other side on Fnatic, so they are heavily favoring some sustain early here in their draft. Two really big healers picked up right away. On the other side, we see Dignitas picking up Geb. Geb, again, great for pushing into that late game, and that seemed to be where Dignitas was pointing towards, but this time they pick up a Medusa as their ADC, a more early to mid-game focused ADC, so we'll see how that manages to combo with the Geb and the Bologna going into the large team fights in the mid-game. Over on the other side, we'll see what Fnatic wants to do to try and round out the core of their lineup here. We generally see flex picks in these early picking stages, gods that can go multiple directions. We've got that with Bologna over here on Dignitas and Ra over here on Fnatic. Fnatic will pick up the Cirquette again for Captain Twig, no surprise there. If it isn't broken, don't fix it. Captain Twig did an excellent job on that Cirquette last game, setting up kills for his teammates, and they also coordinated very well as a team, making sure to get those Cirquette poison spreads. I think 2 or 3 ultimates that game had very big poison spreads from the Cirquette, which can really have a huge impact. Banning out the Poseidon here is Fnatic. That's not too surprising. Poseidon was really one of the gems for Dignitas late game, did a great job of keeping them in the game and winning those early mid-camp fights. And we'll see on her as the final ban out of Dignitas here, wanting to limit the choices for Fnatic and probably trying to get rid of strong mid-gamers, as that's where Dignitas' focus is right now. We see Apollo picked up by Fnatic here. Not a bad choice. Apollo did great last game, so again, why not pick it again? In fact, we have like very similar lineup going on from Fnatic to last game so far. Raw is the only thing we're changing. We got Shadow Nightmare gonna pick up Scylla this time over on Dignitas, it looks like. Rom hover by Variety, so they might be going for the double hunters here. And he's now hovering Chronos. So again, slightly different way they're trying to achieve it, but again, sort of a very late game focused lineup from Dignitas with a very late game focused mage, and actually two very late game focused mages. So we'll see if they have the oomph to carry them through the mid and late game this time around. Bellona should definitely help with that. And now over on the Fnatic side, that looks like they're going to pick up a Vumana here to round out their lineup and have something a little bigger to carry them into the late game as well. Vumana, in fact, locked in, so we'll go ahead into the match here. So loading up here again, it's sort of the same scenario as last game. Dignitas has gone for a rather late game focused team with a few sort of bridge characters to try and carry them into that late game to make sure they aren't too far behind, whereas Fnatic has gone for more of a sort of balanced team to be strong throughout the game. So we'll see how that pays out for them. Fnatic did a really good job with that lineup, that style of lineup last game. They kept it even through the early game, and in the mid game, as soon as they had a little advantage, they made sure to press that and really get as much done as possible. Going for starting items here, Medusa going to the Bluestone and will be a Heartseeker. Got the supports picking up Watcher's Gifts again. And interestingly enough, Shadow Nightmare has gone for this Soulstone again, just like he did on the Poseidon in the previous game. I'm not really a big Soulstone fan. I don't think it's that great. I'd rather just see the sustainability from the Warlock Sash, especially on Scylla. That extra health really helps. You want to make absolutely sure you stay alive early on Scylla and don't fall behind, since late game is really where you're going to come online with that god. So I'm a little surprised to see that Soulstone pick up again. It's not bad, but I think the Shroud may have been slightly better, but it looks like Shadow Nightmare definitely just wants to focus on putting out large damage with his abilities for ganks early on. We actually have a very aggressive start for Maniac here, starting with the Heavy Hammer, and they are going to try and invade with that. No, it could be a bit of a rough invade. Bellona and Chronos both very strong at level 1. Chronos has that long slow and a stun at level 1, and it looks like they will just back off after warding. They're not too interested in fighting a Bellona and Chronos this early. Because while Serket has one of the strongest level 2s in the game, she has one of the worst level 1s in the game, so I'm not surprised to see them back off there, and we will just have completely standard starts from both teams here. As far as other starting items go, nothing too interesting here. We do see Bellona pick up the boots instead of the level 2 Hog, which is a little interesting, and it looks like these two, Maniac and Captain Twig, will actually try to invade. Hog's down from Frosty Axe, and they may be able to steal it. It looks like they did. We've got that Heavy Hammer going to work on Frosty Axe, but not quite able to finish him off. However, a good steal from Maniac. XP and gold from that is nice. It shouldn't really hurt Variety too terribly over here. Let's see, except he has no mana potions, so he could actually be in a bit of trouble for sustain here. Chronos has very excellent mana management, but he blew so much of his mana at level 1 that he may have a little trouble now considering he has no mana potions. Reels and Badger working their way up in this duo lane over here. Unfortunately missed route by Badger, which couldn't quite set up his pull for him, but they still are maintaining very heavy lane pressure here, managing to shove all the creeps under the tower so as much gold is lost as possible for Team Dignitas. And that's sort of the same story we saw last game. Sylvanas just such an amazing lane pusher in the early game that he's really able to force the enemies back under their tower. This time around, I'm not sure what happened last game actually, I didn't think to check on that, but they have given the purple buff to Reels on Apollo. Generally when you have a Sylvanas you give him the purple buff, but Apollo's just the way Apollo is with his passive and his focus on basic attacks for clear, it's not too surprising to see the purple buff given to Apollo. In most cases you would give that purple buff to the Sylvanas, but with an Apollo for an ADC, not too surprising to see him grab the purple. We do have Maniac rotating into the back here against Badja. Good knockup from Geb. Unfortunately, they don't really have much to follow that up. Wisely, Real steps in and stops the rollout from the Geb to stop the slow and make it hit him instead, and Badja just barely manages to walk his way out of there. Good rotation over from Maniac, or from Frostyak. We do see Captain Twig jumping to the back line there, but unable to follow anything up. Badja too low on health there to really go back forward into the fight, and Reels doesn't have much to offer at this point in the game. We've got Scylla up to level 5 now along with Ross, so both mages will be 5 for the mid camps. Good job securing their own experience. We have Frostyak and Frezzy rotate over from Team Dignitas to work on these mid camps. However, Fnatic has rotated 3 in here as well. Badger ready to go, and Zero's ready to go. Lands a really nice Searing Pain. We've got Shadow Nightmare up in the ultimate, but with nobody to set that up for, it's going to be nearly impossible to land. Serket does latch on to Frezu with the ultimate, and that should be his death. Indeed it is. We even saw Reels fly up into the air there to try and put some pressure into that fight, and he actually comes back to go aggressive on Youngbei. Youngbei wisely using his ultimate to stop the root there from Badja, and able to get out of there. Good use of the ultimate. It's quick reflexes. Sometimes, for something that isn't a hard CC, you don't always think to use your CC immunity, but that root almost certainly would have killed him if he hadn't used his ultimate to get out of it. That would have secured at least 2 more basic attacks from Reels and probably would have meant his death. So excellent decision there by Youngbei to use his ultimate to break out of that root from Sylvanas. Maniac and Captain Twig going back to pick up their own blue buff now. They did manage to steal that blue buff from Kronos in the beginning. Excellent job waiting on that and staggering it, giving Vamana as much uptime with the blue buff as possible rather than just refreshing to the normal duration. And Maniac should not have much trouble sustaining in this lane for a while longer now. Stealing that blue buff really good for him since he decided to go with the heavy hammer and Vamana very mana dependent. But he will actually back up now, take this little opportunity to head back to base, immediately finishes the Frostbound Hammer. Now, quite a while ago, several patches ago, you almost never saw the Frostbound Hammer finished at all, and if you did, it was usually as a last item. Things have changed around now to where the health is very top-loaded on that top tier of the Frostbound Hammer tree, so you get a massive spike of health and a good little chunk of power for going up a tier in that Frostbound Hammer and finishing it off. So good to see Maniac finish that right away. That's going to... 400 health is just going to make him very hard to kill right now. His Colossal Fury is percent health regen based, so stacking health very effective on Vamana as a defense mechanism, more so than other gods since he does have a percentage health heal. This time around, Variety did manage to pick up his blue buff, probably because Maniac wanted to go back and finish off that Frostbound Hammer. We see him going into Boots next, which isn't too surprising. Eats a stun, and Variety doing a very good job right now of harassing Maniac back. If he keeps Maniac low, that keeps Maniac from aggressing on him with that Frostbound Hammer, which is very important because if Maniac pops Big Baby and gets on him with the Frostbound Hammer, it would be very difficult for him to get away. Maniac taking a quick back there. I don't think he really needed to back there just yet, but just wanted to be a little safer and get those boots for the extra move speed, the level 2 boots. And he used his Clear the Path right out of the base, so he should be able to get back to the wave here in time. Might miss maybe 1 in gold. Nope, no creeps, mist, and gold, so actually great back there by Maniac. Over on the left side here, we have Searing Pain and I'm a Monster coming down at the same time. Searing Pain hits the Scylla, however, who is much squishier than Badger, and manages to take him out. Apollo comes in from the left side with his ultimate as well, doing big damage into that fight. Actually, not even with his ultimate. No ultimate used there by Apollo. Still has that for chasing down at this point. Now will pop it and likely aggress onto the Medusa over here. Does so, manages to finish her off and takes out Frostiak. Reels with a great fight there. And this should be a Gold Fury for Fnatic. Really nice job by Fnatic there. They've been setting up zeros really well for the snipes in these mid-camp fights, and they have had a very big impact. Very quick Gold Fury there by Fnatic. They took that down really fast, which means they're not going to miss any experience or gold in these lanes. They're going to be able to get right back to them and continue their normal farming routes. So really nice job by Fnatic there. Took the fight and didn't just sit on the fight. They immediately went for the objective, no hesitation. And again, that's really important when you're playing the kind of draft that Fnatic has been in these two games, these sort of balanced all-game drafts. It means you're not particularly weak at any point in the game, but you're also not particularly strong at any point in the game, so when you get an advantage, you need to push it hard. Whereas a team like Dignitas generally needs to be more cautious when they're running these late-game focused drafts and try to just hold on until the late game. So Fnatic doing an excellent job of playing to the draft that they have and getting as much impact out of their ultimates as they can. Maniac now pressuring the tier 1 tower over here in the solo lane. Variety will come back to defend in time and save it, but that tower is quite low. Excellent harass there by Maniac, landing the double tap on the Umbrella Ring. Captain Twig now rotating over here as well. They saw Variety use his ultimate in that last fight, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some pressure come over here soon to try and possibly take him down while his ultimate is not available. Over in the duo lane, we've got Reels putting a lot of pressure onto Youngbei. Unfortunately, forces out a defensive ultimate there. Youngbei still sitting real low, that ultimate not really affecting Reels. Nice route by Badger to go for the pull, but a really nice self-shield by Frezu there to immediately end that route and get him out of the way. Frostiak trying to put a bit of damage into the mid lane, but this is going to be really tough to actually shove anyone out, considering the advantage that Zeros has at this point. His heals are very potent, so it's not going to be an easy task to try and shove them out of lane, and they are now looking towards the back line to try and steal some of these camps. Captain Twig did manage to take that camp with the Cobra's Kiss, the heal now going down from Zeros. Even in this 2v3, Fnatic probably has a decent chance. Excellent setup there from Team Dignitas, though, managing to lock down the Raw and set up the I'm a Monster from Shadow Nightmare. Second one does not manage to connect on Twig, but we now have Vamana coming in. Does a lot of damage and takes out Scylla, bashing away with that Frostbound Hammer. However, Frezzo's rotation does secure the kill on Captain Twig. Maniac may be able to take out Frostiak here. Excellent stun by Geb there. Maniac could have possibly thrown an Umbrella Ring or even landed an Armored Umbrella there, but Geb does manage to stop him with the ultimate right as the big baby runs out. Variety trying to chase down Maniac here, has the Accelerate available, but now Badger will come in for some defense. Excellent pull there, stopping Variety in his tracks, making absolutely sure that he won't catch up to Maniac and secure that kill. Reel's now going to go back to work on his purple buff. Take a little check-in on itemization here. Scylla going for the cooldown boots. Again, interesting. We've actually seen a lot of mages lately favoring cooldown boots over power boots. And particularly in this series, Shadow Nightmare, both games on mages that traditionally have gone power boots has gone into cooldown boots. So he's really favoring spamming those spells out. Vamana, over here, Maniac, went into the attack speed boots, not surprising considering the Frostbound Hammer. Looks like he's going for a very fast, heavy in-hand base build, as he's now going into the Light Blade. I imagine that'll be an Executioner. Could technically be an Aussie or a Kins. You never really see Kins anymore. Kins is really just a pretty bad item at this point, considering the high price point. We do see Captain Twig going into the backline here. Cobra's Kiss will miss though, so there shouldn't be too much more aggression here. Maniac doing his best to stick on Frostiak, and the ultimate is available from Captain Twig. We'll shove him back. Not quite communicating there properly with Zeros, so not able to secure that kill right then. Maniac will chase it down from the Frostbound Hammer though. Ooh, and a big burst of damage from Captain Twig's Deathbane. Takes out Variety before he can finish his ultimate. We see Reels coming over here as well. He's going to dunk right into the back line. He's going to pay for it, though, it looks like. A little overzealous there by Reels, though his team might still be able to clean up some of these kills. Shadow Nightmare dropping the Amon Monster into a Badger, but unfortunately not able to secure anything, and will get taken out himself. And this could potentially be a Fire Giant. Unlikely, but could be. They're likely to pressure this mid lane, take out the tower, and then maybe trend for this Gold Fury that's about to respawn. Looks like they will do none of the above. They're just going to go ahead and back, finish up items, and regroup for the next fight. I really would have liked to see them pressure the tier 1 tower there, but they're just going to play it safe rather than sorry, protect the lead rather than try to advance it at this point. And it's not a terrible idea, considering that they've done a pretty good job of shutting down the Chronos and the Scylla, limiting that late game power spike of Team Dignitas. Bologna went for the attack speed boots right into the Winged Blade. The Winged Blade, definitely a good choice considering what Vamana was doing to her. But unfortunately, that's really the only slow on their team. I mean, they've got the one from Zeros, but he's almost always just going to be sitting in the back line. We do have a game paused now by Frosty Eck. So we'll take that opportunity to talk a little bit more about itemization and the decisions the players are going for. Zeros has gone the max CDR again this game on Raw, just like he did Giannis in the previous game. Which is not a bad choice on Raw, definitely. You do it on Giannis to help yourself escape and whatnot. Raw, you do it if you want a massive teamfight presence. Raw spamming heals and slows in a teamfight really just makes him a nuisance. I imagine he'll probably go into some, like, pen and power next. He's got the max CDR. His next two items would likely be probably a shard and a large power item, which could be Bancrofts or Tahuti or whatever. Vamana is not going an Aussie, and like I said, is likely not going a Kins because it's just kind of a Garbo item right now. So we'll probably be going the Executioner with that Balance Blade. Apollo working his way to boots, Medusa as well. We'll see which boots they decide to go for. We've seen some going for power and some going for attack speed lately. It seems like generally we see the power boots on Apollo just since he has such a nice built-in attack speed steroid. On Scylla here, she's gone into a Spear of the Magus after completing her cooldown boots, and Chronos is working for a Demonic Grip again, just like he was in the previous game. We'll see how that works out for him. Just going to see if the camera controls let me go forward past this pause, but I don't know if they will. So as far as strategy, I think this is a similar position to the one that Cognitive Gaming was in against AFK when they were falling slightly behind, but then managed to pull it back to even at one point. I think Dignitas needs to make a lot of motion to try and split Fnatic up, and then come back and group quickly and try to force a fight where they have an advantage. Back into the game now, unpaused. Ember's playing safe here. We hear some commotion going on the side. Serket attempted to land a Cobra's Kiss, but was unable to connect with it. And we do have the Gold Fury being pressured now, but they will not stick around for it. I'm actually somewhat surprised Fnatic backed off on that. I think they could have forced the fight there. Fights with even numbers right now are great for Fnatic, considering the level and gold advantage they have. So I'm surprised they didn't try to force a fight at the Gold Fury when they're all grouped up like that. But they're still just trying to play safe, make sure they secure this game as cautiously as possible. But I definitely think they could afford to press their advantage a little bit more. So we'll see what they do going forward. Team Dignitas, on the other hand, need to try and find a fight where they have a numbers advantage. I do not see them winning a 5-on-5 fight right now against a Raw and a Sylvanas. It's just very unlikely to happen when you're behind. We do have quite a grouping going up here on the left side. We'll see if a fight actually breaks out. Now Fnatic is likely to finish or to work on that Gold Fury. They're going to steal the purple buff. After all backing, they should all have another tier of items done. You see Apollo finished his boots. Sylvanas has a sovereignty done. Monas finished his executioner. So now they should have relatively little trouble taking this Gold Fury. Frezu being aggressed on hard by Captain Twig and Maniac, who were both hiding behind the walls to prevent an incursion from Dignitas. I'm a Monster lands, but unfortunately unable to finish anything, but afterwards does get the kill on Captain Twig. Unfortunately no reset on the I'm a Monster. Reel's now into the air. We'll see if he manages to finish someone off with his ultimate. Back on the ground now. Badger and Reel's aggressing on Variety. Variety doing his best to get out. Will get a little support from Bologna. That disarm going to buy him about a second of extra life, but Reel's able to land the final basic attack and finish him off. Raw into the back line now. That Wing Blade just kicked in for Bologna, but unfortunately there was just too much damage back up there from Fnatic, so she is picked off. Big team fight win from Fnatic. They take the Gold Fury as well, only lose Captain Twig for it. And whereas before it was pretty manageable, Fnatic now has a pretty commanding lead in this game. Captain Twig has now respawned. I imagine we'll see Fnatic group up back to the base to get their mana. Multiple players are very low on mana, and then I wouldn't be at all surprised to see them force a fight and go for a Fire Giant next. With that last fight, they should now know how much ahead they are of Team Dignitas, know how strong they are right now, so they should feel pretty confident in just forcing a fight to go for the next objective. And we now see some aggression by Captain Twig and Maniac, working on Frezu. Excellent ult by Captain Twig to stop the rollout. Frezu will drop his and return to stun. Captain Twig manages to blow him up with the Deathbane, and that poison does spread onto Variety. Captain Twig working his way out now. Excellent use of the Cobra's Kiss to turn Maniac back around onto Variety and stop that aggression. So already we've got one pick for Fnatic here. It was the enemy support, and we'll see if they try to do anything in the way of a Fire Giant. Unlikely just at this moment, since Reels is on the other side of the map, though his ultimate did just come off cooldown. Nice snipe there by Zeros, not hitting super hard because we can see that he actually went into the Rod of Asclepius, so he is just going full support with this Raw, not focusing on damage at all, just trying to help his teammates as much as he possibly can. And that's a pretty good decision considering how far ahead they are. If you are even or just a little bit ahead, often you'll want to focus more towards damage on Raw, but if you're really far ahead to the point where you can just make your team completely unkillable, then going full support is definitely a good choice. Reels looks like he's retreating and ults out, decides to turn right back around and dunk back in since he has support from Badger rotating in. Eagles rally into the I'm a Monster from Shadow Nightmare will finish off Reels, so Reels' aggression does cost him in the long run, but he did take out Youngbei nonetheless. Badger should be able to walk himself on out of here. No further aggression really available from Dignitas. Over on Fnatic, this time we see Captain Twig skipped that Wing Blade that he went into last game, which means this time he's already finished up a Deathbane, so if he gets some good RNG on those Deathbringer, so he gets some good RNG on those Deathbanes, he'll really be able to hurt hard, take out enemies fast. We see Zeros and Badger pressuring this mid lane. Dignitas likely unaware of Captain Twig's presence right behind them. You can see they do not know he's behind them. Managed to sneak into the back line, but under that tower, not a lot he can do, so just Deathbanes through. Probably crossing his fingers for a Deathbringer crit there to do some extra damage, but it's not going to come to him this time. Ugh, it's darn cold. My nose is starting to run. Hopefully this game doesn't last too much longer. Alright, heading back out of the base now is Fnatic. They've bought up their next set of items. We can see Sylvanas now has a finished Heart Ward. Lumana is going to be going into a Rune Forge next. We've got heavy aggression from Maniac and Captain Twig on Variety, who just manages to complete his ult in time and should be able to get out of here considering he has backup rotating in from the middle lane. But still, Chronos ultimate down, that's a big cooldown. That is no longer available, so we will likely see Fnatic continue to pour on some aggression here. Reels has his ultimate available again, so he's just continuing to play Apollo as you should, pushing the far lane and just making sure your ultimate's available for team fights. That's the main thing that made Apollo so popular back when he was, and the main thing that's bringing him back into popularity now. Captain Twig again into the back line. Cobra's Kiss doesn't manage to connect with anyone. Dignitas falling back slightly. Dignitas really needs to try and group up here. Even though Reels can quickly approach with his ultimate, there's still quite a bit of time it takes for him to get across the map. And now that he is over here without using his ultimate, this team fight's going to be very dangerous for them again. It would be good if they could force a fight to make Apollo use his ultimate to get over, rather than having Apollo there for the fight and then using his ultimate to chase down. Got some damage going to Maniac, but an excellent blink in and ultimate by Badger will knock the enemy up. Maniac working his way in big baby form. He's taking a lot of damage though, unable to tank that much aggression. Captain Twig takes out Youngbei. Unfortunately, Shadow Nightmare unable to finish off an opponent with that I'm a Monster, so will not get a reset. Putting in some damage to Reels now, but Reels life stealing away and taking a ton of heal from that Raw right now with that Rod of Asclepius. And it looks like Raw will even be going into a Lotus Crown now. I think that's on that side of the tree. Just continuing to go with that full support idea. The Deathbane from Captain Twig, unable to quite finish him because he was disarmed, but will eventually get him down with some help from some creeps. And this should be a Fire Giant for Fnatic now. And indeed, they will start it up. Frezzo working on their speed buff back there rather than trying to contest the Fire Giant. Unlikely to be able to steal it considering the amount of lockout they have with Apollo's Mez and Serket CCs. So instead, trying to take away the buff, he will indeed take that orange buff, but Captain Twig's just going to go ahead and steal the one from Frosty Egg. We now see Fnatic players trending towards the left side. Gold Fury has just respawned and they will take her out as well, increasing their lead even more. This will put them at around a 12k gold advantage. And anything over like 10k is where you really start noticing it, because that's about 2,000 per person, which is 2 tiers of most items. And you can see that reflected in the itemization. We're just about a slot ahead on every character over here. Rod does finish off the Lotus Crown. Serket now into a Malice. Captain Twig feels no need to go for anything defensive this game considering the lead they have, so he's itemizing correctly to build that lead rather than just protect it. Goes into the Malice, has a nice crit chance on Deathbane now at 40%, and a lot of damage, plus some damage over time if one of those crits does happen. We might have an engagement here on the left. Reels just back to base, but again, he does have his ultimate available. All 5 members of Fnatic holding onto a Fire Giant. Team Dignitas is going to have a very hard time defending here. Their best bet is to probably try and take advantage of the fact that Serket has no defensive items and burst her quickly, because if she gets that ultimate off on someone and it spreads again, that could be the fight for Team Dignitas. Deathbane into, Cobras gets into Deathbane there by Captain Twig. He will manage to take out Frostiak. Reels dives into the backline with his ultimate. Doesn't look like any kills will be found there. Variety managed to ult just in time. Oh, but he's stuck right back into the middle of Team Fnatic. Fnatic continuing to aggress. They take out Zeros as well, and this could very well be the game for Team Fnatic. Taking down Youngbei. Big I'm a Monster landed for Scylla, but unfortunately, again, just unable to finish anyone. Real close, but just not quite enough. And this should be the game for Team Fnatic. Probably no big surprises here. As we said in the beginning, the voting indicated that most people expected Fnatic to take this 2-0 series pretty handily, and indeed they did. A good job from Team Dignitas. They went in with the same game plan both games, trying to sort of focus on a late game comp and pick a few early gamers to bridge that. Unfortunately for them, Fnatic just doing a really good job of playing their well-rounded lineup, making sure to stay even until an opportunity presented itself, and as soon as that opportunity did present itself, they pushed hard to make sure they built the lead to keep Dignitas from getting to that late game power state. So thank you for watching. We'll be back on probably Sunday with the games from Saturday, and Monday with the games from Sunday. There'll probably usually be about a 1-day delay on these community casts just to get the match IDs available. Hopefully my cold will be better soon so I can do a little better job casting for you guys. Again, leave comments what you liked, what you didn't like, and what you would do to improve the things that you didn't like, and we'll see you next time.